You are new here, and we don't expect you to believe us when we tell you how bad it is. It is a flat, scary jungle, thick with scrub trees and tall grass, hot and wet in intermittent rain and strong tropical dragonflies and Viet Cong sniper bullets. You can get killed here. Get out while you are still alive and before it's too late.
My name is Mike Bryant, and I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years.
I graduated from high school in 1969, and at that time the draft was really heavy.
I joined in 1968, which was when the Tet Offensive occurred in Vietnam, which was sort of the end of the, psychologically, the end for America because of how bad the Tet Offensive was.
I was drafted into the Army, but I was able to switch over to the Marines.
When I was in high school, that's what everybody talked about. Am I going to go? I hope I am flat-footed or have a heart murmur, or no one wanted to go. People were dying.
As far as anti-war movements, stuff like that, it wasn't going on at the time. It was patriotic, and you got to remember a lot of our fathers and uncles fought in World War II and Korea. So, patriotic in that, but later on, as each year went along, the anti-war sentiment grew.
Well, there was more political unrest, through my high school years. So there was a lot of fervor against the war starting, the more and more people that got killed over there, which, you'd never heard of before from World War II or the Korean War. It was getting very unpopular, which was something new for America. Well, I went in the Navy and went to, of course, boot camp, which was basic, learning how to be an airman and those type of things.
I went to basic training with some of the guys I went to school with, and they had just built new barracks, 3-story brick barracks in Fort Leonard Wood.
We had one guy that was about 5 feet 4 inches tall that always had a smile on his face. One thing you didn't want to do when you were in a place like that is be noticed. You wanted to be not stand out one way or the other, except for in classwork. So this guy always had a smile on his face, and the drill instructor day after day was getting on to him about, "Are you smiling at me?" Right back, smile off his face. He could not do it. So one day we were lined up, and he had his smile, and the drill instructor had him go laugh at a clothesline post for about 5 minutes.
But at the time, we thought, well, that they had attacked our Navy out in the Gulf of Tonkin, and it escalated that, and then, that was Johnson's reason to go to ask Congress to escalate the war so he could pump more men and materials into South Vietnam because of the domino effect.
Of a powerful aggression that is spurred by an appetite for conquest.
And that theory was that if one nation in Southeast Asia was taken over by communists, they thought every one of them would fall, and that included Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia.
It is the arena where communist expansionism is most aggressively at work in the world today. Where
that was the sentiment at the time as far as the reason for that, understanding why we were doing it. Little did we know that in reality, we were 18, 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, and we didn't know about the history of Vietnam. They've been fighting for centuries, and in reality, they didn't want us there.
What South Vietnam has achieved, it has had to achieve while committing 1 million of its best young men. To the Americans, the name of the game is Vietnamization. It means simply equipping South Vietnam to fight its own battles.
you do a lot of training, and so you respond to your training, and it's a job. It's your job to do it, and you support the people on the ground because they're the ones that need the help and stuff. So coping-wise, yeah, we were scared, but it was your job to go get them.
On April 19th, 1968, we were flying missions into what we call Ayshaw Valley. The helicopter that I normally flew on, I wasn't on because I'd pulled guard duty the night before. And so they wouldn't let you come off of guard duty and then go into flight status, so I had to take a 4-hour break. I was coming off of guard duty, and guys were walking down to get their helicopters and that, so I was talking to the guys and the one that I normally flew with, and there was a guy that had replaced me as far as being the crew chief. You know, we're kidding with each other and that, so take care, I'll see you guys out in the valley. Probably about 3-4 hours later, I'm up and down at the operations, and we heard there's bad stuff happening in the Ayshaw. Helicopters are being shot out of the air and that, so then we got word that the helicopter that I normally flew on had been shot down, and the flight engineer and the crew chief had jumped from 150 feet in the triple canopy jungle that it was going down on fire, and they had jumped in the triple canopy jungle. The 3 that rode the aircraft down, they were rescued, but they were badly burned. And so, you know, that kind of hit home.
Yeah, so we would stay in country, and you could see the dangers around us, and you know, the netting over the apartments and the hotels to keep the bombs and stuff, or the tossed grenades and things from hitting, you know, inside the building. So yeah, it was intense. It was a war zone. It wasn't going to Shangri-La.
I think being in a combat situation, you form friendships that you would not have formed in civilian life, people that you probably wouldn't have care about being friends with, that you become very close friends with because you rely on each other and trusting your life with them.
3 of my best friends actually were killed over there. Another one was on our first, when we were still in training, we flew to the East Coast to do carrier qualifications where you'd take off the aircraft carrier and land and just to practice. And he was in a plane, and as they hit the catapult shot, he had a seizure. And actually, they just kicked him out immediately out of the service, so he got to retire as an ensign. But I saw him after I got out for a while and went and stayed with him for a couple of weeks. But otherwise, some of my better friends actually were killed. So
We traveled in a group, and there was probably 6 or 7 of us that were real tight. We worked together all day, and then we played together at night. So it was kind of, you know, camaraderie there.
31st of January, we started getting mortared, heavy.
Like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, it was just almost an unreal type of thing.
Our helicopters were getting damaged, so we couldn't get up, off the ground. So we had to go defend our perimeter. They were trying to get sappers through our wire, because if they could do that, they could get to our helicopters and blow them up too. You know.
That day, we were all over the place, mainly resupplying and doing the medevacs and stuff. Again, you're doing your job. You don't really have time to think. You just other than get very, very tired.
And like I say, the mortars were coming in around our helicopters and that. They were on a wire, and they tried to get in through our front gate. So we were fighting them off there. That was my introduction to TET.
It was kind of like a big one-shot thing that the MVA did, and it didn't work for them. A lot of people think that we didn't win that, but we did.
We went to Vietnam actually in April 1971, and that was, again, after the Tet Offensive. They were, at that time, I think, having peace talks with the North Vietnamese, so what we did was not nearly as dangerous as what had been done before and really after that. Actually, the biggest explosion we had was when our bomb didn't fall off quick enough, fell off late, and we had a pretty good magnesium fire. The rules at the time were that you could not bomb beyond 500 yards past the road. So we had to be within 500 yards of the road. They knew that, so they just parked stuff farther off the road. So we actually had a pretty good explosion one time. Other than that, though, as time went along, it was frustrating because, you know, it didn't seem like we were accomplishing anything, and in fact, we weren't. You know, after the fact. So, I was there. I was a little bit frustrated.
I flew in between the pilot and the co-pilot. I had a seat, and I handled the props and the throttles and the landing gear and the flaps. So when they told me to do anything with those controls, I did that. And so we flew to the Vietnam and all over the Orient to either transport equipment and people. But we made a lot of trips into Vietnam just to pick up somebody for emergency leave, or, you know, something happened in their family that they needed to leave.
Didn't know it at the time, but the North Vietnamese had infiltrated the South Vietnamese military and their government. And they kind of knew when everything was going to happen, just about. Corruption, I mean, it ran rapid. Sometimes we'd be receiving fire and we couldn't tell where it was coming from. If you couldn't see a muzzle flash or a tracer, well, if somebody on the ground was telling you this is where you're receiving fire from, then sometimes we didn't know. We knew we were getting shot at, but where's it coming from?
I wasn't 21 when I got back, so yeah, I was a teenager. No fear. Different now, but then, no fear.
It was a tight bond, and and I think that's what pulled a lot of us through, the tight bond that we had. There was no race. You know, we were all there, and there were blacks and Hispanics and whites, but that didn't mean anything to us. Everybody counted on everybody. But I think it was we knew what each other was going through. When we fought the war for each other, when you get into it, you're fighting it for each other. And that's my brother. So the way we looked at it, you need us, we're coming. It's not God bless American apple pie. It's no, you're my brother, I'm coming to get you. So you have to keep that attitude.
When we first came back, the American Legion, the VFWs, and the places and stuff, they didn't care for us Vietnam vets that much. As time went on, they accepted us more. Basically, they died out, and we're at more of a acceptable level now and stuff. And it's fun to, everybody's war is different, but all the same. You get shot at, and it's just different how they do it. I mean, we can sit there and tell lies to each other, and we know we're telling lies. So, you kind of relive some of those times, and basically the good times is what you reminisce about and stuff. And some of the guys that didn't come home, you think about them and talk about them and stuff.
I just found out today that another one of my classmates had been killed, and I didn't know it. He actually was killed in 1972, so that affected me a little bit today.
I started out as an aircraft mechanic in the Navy, and I went to Spartan. So I continued on with my aircraft experience that I got in the Navy. So it certainly set me up for my entire career.
I went back to work at American Steel. It just went on with my life. I never had any effects of PTSD or anything of that nature. Knowing
now what I know, what I didn't know then, it taints you a little bit. Knowing that. Putting in puppet governments over there, and just the things that the United States did, and how they rolled the numbers and lied, and it'd make you tainted a little bit. When we left Vietnam, we left those people with a war that we had really initiated, and then all of a sudden, okay, we're out of here. The people who worked with us, they're going to pay the price. Some of them already have. Same thing in Iraq. Those people who worked with us, they're going to pay the price.
you stirred up the hornet's nest and then you walk away. Well, you've got to go in with a plan. Because who's going to pay the price? You know, you take a look at Vietnam, there's over 58,000 Americans who paid that price for a war that didn't need to be escalated or fought.
I needed to go in and do the job that I was hired to do, and I got a lot of valuable experience out of it, and set me up for a career. So there's as much positive I got out of it as I didn't like following orders, but that's just part of life.
But as far as my service, I'm proud of my service. And, when I look back on it, I've probably done it again. I wouldn't, because it was, it changed my life. I think it changed it for the better.
I came home, my family, I was not married, but my family supported me when I came back while I was there. My friends supported me. You did have some people who did not think the same way that I thought and stuff, and they expressed themselves. But on the whole, it was okay. And then when I got out of the service and came back to John Brown to finish up, it was still, we kind of within ourselves, but you had a few people who wanted to express themselves at a different viewpoint.
Very specific, when I got back to the United States, I got spit on at San Francisco airport, and I'll never forget it. Never. I'd served my country, I'd done what I was supposed to do, and it was really, it hurt.
Not everybody died in Vietnam. There's still people dying from that war. If you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. And we keep repeating the same damn thing, time after time. The thing about war, if you don't learn from it, more people are going to die if you don't learn.